Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another Fundamental Games preview, kind of a development conversation about Die in the Dungeon. Today we're going to unveil a new creature for you to play with, and that's going to be the Daimon. So the Daimon, you can see here the art by Tristram Rawson. The Daimon is a demon type character. And again, just like the eye roller, it incorporates each of the classic RPG dice. You can see the D20s here in its chest as its musculature, D12s as its shoulder, D10s as its biceps, D6s as its thighs, and of course the D4 as its big old head. So this Daimon is a force to be reckoned with, and the heroes of the world are going to try to take you down. So you're going to barrel through the dungeon, shooting out fire, summoning diamonds, or little minions, and doing whatever you can to survive. So here's your character board for the Daimon. Now his abilities are a bit different, so instead of a 1, 2, 3 like the eye roller, he requires a minimum of 2 ability points to use his first, 3 ability points for his second power, and 4 ability points for his third power. So he can summon diamonds, he can have a demonic rush to gain some time, and he can shoot demonic fire just to take a hero completely out of battle. So his powers are a bit more obvious than the eye rollers. So the eye rollers had powers that really manipulated dice or let you change up your dice in different ways, whereas the Daimon just kind of forces his way through. He's a bit more reckless that way, and so they're one shots instead of manipulators. So what's different from the last time? Well, the last time I showed you a video, we didn't have Dominions on the board. So Dominions are these little tokens, whereas if you go to that spot and you happen to defeat that tile, you'll obtain this token, and that will help you later on in the game. And so you can use a Dominion at any time to roll a die and add it to whatever die roll you were already doing. So if I was doing an attack roll with a D10, I would also get to add a D6 die roll. Now that could be powerful by adding up to 6, or it could be weak by only adding up a 1 roll, but either way it gives you a little perk in battle. And those diamonds come in different sizes, so if you travel deep into the depths on the left, you might get a D20 diamond or a D10. There's D12s here, and then of course the epic creatures, epic parties are all going to be further on in the dungeon. Now the way I have it laid out here is there's a whole dungeon to explore, and this may be the one of many different map types that you could create, still determining how best to share that in the game. But basically you're going to go through this dungeon until you can take down the epic party at the end, and having these diamonds or Dominions at your disposal may help you defeat those epic battles. What else can I tell you? Well, at the start of the game, like you've seen in other demo videos, is we have to take this D20 and set it to 20, and that goes on our time icon. Our D4 is basically starts at 0, and on our first turn we'll get 1 ability icon, so we're just going to set it there for now. And then I get to pick my 4 other stats. I get to pick my might, I get to pick my agility or evade, I get to pick my magic, and I get to pick my health using the other traditional dice. So I need actually a D12 here. There we go. And a D6. I've got too many dice here. Alright. And so these are all going to start at their highest values, and they will get placed where I want to. So maybe if I'm going to keep my magic low this time, and I'm going to have my combat as my highest stat. So we're really going to force might in this game. We'll have 10 for health and 8 for agility. Alright, so my stats are set, the dice are in place, and these dice do stay here. These are dice that don't get rolled. These are dice that track your statistics, although you will have another set of dice which are considered your dice to roll. So we'll grab all of these and bring them over here. So these are going to be the diamonds rolling dice. Okay. Alright. And then the enemy will have their dice here. So what would happen on a turn? Well, at the beginning of your turn, you gain 1 ability point. So this 1 would go here. And then if I gained another point on my next turn, it would go up to a maximum of 4 for my ability die. Unless you have some way in the game later on to change your ability die to a D6 or higher, then you could actually earn more points. But you can only go to the maximum of the die that's in each of your stats. So I could never have more than 6 magic unless I got my die upgraded, which is possible. Alright, So that is the first part of my turn. So it's your turn sequence. So gain 1 ability point. You have an optional rest as your second option. You could lose time to gain a health. So if I was below my maximum health, which right now is 10, so if I was at 6 health, I could lose up to 4 time to gain up to 4 health. So those two can kind of go in tandem, but you can't go in reverse. So I can't get rid of health to get time back. So you have to be cautious when you sacrifice time to rest, because it will permanently impact your ability to win the game. All right, then we lose 1 time and flip over the next dungeon tile in the stack. So that's going to be reworded, but basically at the beginning or after my rest period, I'm always going to lose 1 time regardless. So I'll go down to 19 time, and then I decide which way I'm going on the board. So let's say I wanted to go over here. I would reveal this tile, and I would have to go through the entire sequence of this tile, and then if I defeat it, then which I kind of have to, then I would gain this Dominion. Okay, so what happens? Well, the one here on the top left, that's just an indicator for the difficulty level of the tile. There's going to be 3 difficulty levels, 1, 2, and 3. The title of the tile, in case it's ever referenced for some reason, and then there's a description of what happens on that tile prior to the battle. So the hero's might value is added to their magic value when determining their magic attack die. So the hero is not us, that's the person that we're fighting. So nothing applies specifically to us right now. And then we have to fight a fighter and a wizard. Now keep in mind that 1 matters for here. So if that is a 1, I would go over to my cards here, and I might have them all in 1 stack, or I might have them split up, depends on your table size. But you'll see here, if I have a warrior, there's going to be a level 1, a level 2, so there's level 1, level 2, and then there's a level 3 and level 4 warrior. So as you progress through the dungeon, you may encounter higher levels of cards. Now in this dungeon, I've only got level 1, so we're only going to fight level 1 fighters, but like any good solo game, you want to have an option to increase your difficulty level to just, to keep things interesting. So we're going to have a level 1 fighter and a level 1 wizard. Oops, I took a level 3 wizard there. Shouldn't do that. Grab this guy here. Alright, so we have to battle these 2 guys. And how does battle work? Well, the way battle works is, first off, we would look at the reference board here. So if I am, the first ability only ever applies if there's more than 1 of the same hero type. So we know that none of these apply right now. But if we did have more than 1 warrior, or more than 1 rogue, or more than 1 wizard, then they kind of complement each other and give you a perk. But that's not the case this time. So what happens with a warrior, if you roll a 10 or higher on a might attack, I would take an additional damage. And for a wizard, if a 10 or higher is rolled on a magic attack, I would lose a time instead of a health. But they have to be successful attacks. That's a key word there. Alright, so what happens in combat? The first thing that happens in combat is, and you can see we've got a reference sheet here, but the first thing that happens is the heroes always get to attack first. It's just kind of natural in books and in the way things go that the heroes tend to get to attack first. So even though I'm the one traipsing through the dungeon trying to hunt down these heroes, they have more eyes on me than I have on them, and it's just the way it goes. So the first, if there's a fighter in the party, they get a might attack. Then if there was a rogue in the party, they would get an evade attack. And then if there's a wizard in the party, they would get a magic attack. The cleric doesn't provide an attack, but does kind of become the fodder for the group, giving every other character more time to attack. So next thing we have to figure out, we know we have a fighter, so we know that, or a warrior, we know that they get to do a might attack. So their might attack would normally be the total value of the might in the party, which right now is a 5. So they would be able to roll the minimum die that would allow them to roll a 5. So in this case, it would be a D6. But the hero's might value is added to their magic value. Okay, so that's for the magic attack. So for the might attack, we're only going to roll a D6. Now, I have a D12, and the way it works is they either have to roll the maximum amount on their die, or on whatever die they roll, if they exceed my might value, they would score a hit. So because my value is a 12, the only way they can possibly hit me is to get their max roll. So there's always a chance that the heroes are going to hit you. Just like in a good book or in a good story, the heroes always have a chance. So the heroes roll their might, and they have a 2. So 2 is not a hit. So now they go to their magic attack. Now normally their magic attack would just be a d6 because that's the total value of the magic. But because the hero's might value is added to their magic for this particular tile, we're going to add 4 to that 6. So we have a total of 10, which means instead of rolling a d6, they get to roll a d10 for this battle, for their magic attack. My magic defense is only a 6, so as long as they roll a 7, 8, 9, or 10, they're going to hit me. They rolled a 1, so I guess no hit. So what happens now? Well, now it's my turn. I'm the diamond, and I plan to destroy these guys. So I get to choose one attack type to roll. I could pick my might, I could pick my evade, or I could pick my magic as my attack types, or I could use an ability first. I'm going to choose to roll my demonic fire. So I get to take a d12 and roll it. And as long as I exceed the party's total might value, I score a hit on them. And I get to destroy or defeat the hero of my choice. Unless there's a cleric in the party, in which case I have to destroy the clerics first. So I have to exceed a 5 on my roll. I can't just get a 5, I have to exceed a 5. So I'm going to roll that die. I have scored a 3, so that is a miss. Now, when it comes to combat and die in the dungeon, it's not just about the roll that you make, it's about if you choose to modify that roll or not. So no matter what I'm attacking with, as long as I want to, I could sacrifice my ability points in order to increase the result of my roll. So instead of a 3 here, again, I can lose 3 might to add 3 might here. So this, like I said, this die doesn't get rolled, but it represents what die you roll, but it's also a permanent stat value. So you got to be very strategic when you use these, though, because if you think about it, as soon as I lower this, then for the rest of the game, my defense on might, or my kind of like my armor class, so to speak, for might, would go from 12 down to whatever I reduce it to. So if I take 3 off to add 3 to my roll to successfully hit, that means that unless something changes my score later on, my new might score is 9. So we're going to do that this turn just to show you how that works. So I changed my 3 into a 6 by adding those 3 that I took off my permanent score. So that 6 now beats their 5, and I can take out a creature of my choosing. Now, because the wizard is getting a little bit of bonus from this tile, I'm going to destroy the wizard. So he goes away. Alright, so then we go to the next round of combat. Again, we go back to that sequence. If there's a fighter in the party, they get to attack. Now, there's only 4 might left, which means they actually do get to roll a d4, which actually increases their chances of hitting in a way, because as long as they roll a 4, they hit. They did not, but if they would have hit me. So then I get to roll my attack die. Even though I'm down to 9, I still have a d12 there, so it's not like my value goes down. I don't have to start rolling a d10. That's only for the heroes, because I chose to have a 12 strength. So I've rolled a 9, which defeats their 4, so I've now defeated the warrior. So they go back to the warrior pile, and I've now defeated this tile. When you defeat a tile, if there's a die minion on it, you gain that die minion. So you can see here I started the game with a d6 die minion, and now I have another one. And so those are ways that, often the big boss battles have little minions. They have cannon fodder, whether they're goblins or kobolds or whatnot, or in the diamond's case, maybe I have little guys that I've summoned forth. Alright, so I've traipsed over here in the dungeon, and I proceed to my next turn. At the beginning of my next turn, I will gain an ability point. So I'm now up to 2, so I could now use demonic fire if I wanted to in combat. And then when I progress through the dungeon, it doesn't matter how far I go, I just go to the next tile of my choice. So let's say I wanted to go over to this one, I would still just lose 1 time. So I go over here, I lose 1 time, and I have found this tile. So this tile is a level 1 tile like the rest of this dungeon right now, and it says I have to make an evade check. If the result is less than 8, I lose 2 health. So an evade check means that whatever my evasion die is, I have to roll that die. So this is going to be a tough one for me, because I have to roll I have to roll the max value. I have to roll an 8, otherwise I'm going to lose 2 health. So we can take this, we can roll this die, and we have a 7. So I have an option now. I can reduce my evasion down by 1 to score that 8 to save myself to 2 health, or I can take the 2 health damage. So I'm going to reduce that down to 7, making my roll an 8, which means that I avoid and dodge the arrows with that evade check. So again, you have a lot of decision points to make. You know, if you want to suffer the health loss, if you want to suffer the arrow loss, if I want to exchange my time for health on my next turn. Lots of decisions to make. All right. So I've successfully gone through that part of the dungeon, and I get that diamond now, or Diminion. And then where I'm going to place these Diminions isn't confirmed in the game yet. This is kind of all in a test, just progressing through and seeing what works and what doesn't. And maybe depending on the difficulty level of the game that you're playing, there may be more Diminions present in the little dungeon that we build. All right. So I'm going to proceed to the next turn. My time will go down to 17, unless I decided to heal, but I'm not injured right now, so I'm safe. Then I travel to that next dungeon spot. So I'm traveling over to this tile here, and this one says might. And if you look at the bottom, it says might because it's a mighty battle. There's 4 warriors in here. But before I fight the warriors, I gain 2 might, and if I'm at my maximum after gaining, I can upgrade my die. So these are important tiles because they can really change your power. So if you look here, my might is currently 9. I'm going to gain 2 might, so I'm going to go up to 11. If I had gone to 12 when I had this tile, I would have actually upgraded to a D20. Now my stat wouldn't change to a 20, but my rollable die every time I fight would change to a 20, and that's a big change, 12 to 20, so good thing to remember. Either way, I'm going here and I have to fight for level 1 warriors. So what would we do? We would take, we'll just take this stack over here. So we're going to take the 4 warriors, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 warriors. And so let's take a look at the warriors. For each warrior in the party beyond the first, the hero's might and evasion rolls gain +1. So that's not my rolls again, that is the hero's roll. They're referring to themselves. So when they roll their attack die, they're going to roll 4, 8, 12. They have a 16. A 16 means that they get to roll a d20 because they couldn't get a 16 on a d12. So a d20 is their die. And don't worry, when the game is made, there'll be a chart that references what die you get to use. But not only that, they get to roll that die plus they get a +1, 2, 3 because there's 3 beyond the first. So they're going to get a +3 to whatever they roll. So they've got a really good attack roll here, going against my score of 11. So if we roll this die for their attack, they have a 9, 10, 11, 12. They actually scored a 12 because of this first ability here. Now, if a 10 or higher is rolled on a successful might attack, which was, you take an additional damage. So these guys are a tough group, and they actually are dealing 2 damage to me. And keep in mind, I cannot change the hero's modifier or rolls, so I can't use my own might to reduce their roll. I have to take that hit. But now it's my turn to attack. So what am I going to do? Well, these Diminions, you get to send these forth after your roll if you think it'll help you hit your opponent. But so I have a choice. I can roll my might roll, but knowing that they have 4, 8, 12, 16 defense against it, probably not the best idea. Instead, I could roll evasion. They have 2, 4, 6, 8 evasion. I have a D8 for evasion, maybe not the best. But if you look, warriors are extremely susceptible to magic, and I always have some magic at my disposal. I have a D6, so I can just roll my D6 and get myself a guaranteed hit because they're all warriors. So there we go. I roll a 5. I hit one of them, and I get to get rid of one of the warriors. Now, if I'd used up all my magic, that wouldn't be such a good thing because I'd have a 0 magic and not be able to do that. But Alright, so now they get to attack again. They get 4, 8, 12, so they get a d12 instead of a d20 this time, so less likely they're going to attack. And they're going to roll that d12, and they're going to add 2 to it. So they have 6, 7, 8. So 8 against my 10, now they've missed, and I can keep chipping away at them. So I roll my d6 magic to attack, and I take out one of these warriors. Might seem like it's really easy to beat warriors, but remember, these are level 1 guys. They're really weak, and I'm supposed to be a big tough demon. So I want to make sure that's represented in the game. Now they get to attack. Their attack, now that there's only 2 of them, they're down to a d8 because they've got a total of 8 might. So they roll that d8. Now they only get a +1, so they're at 7, which is still a miss. The only way they could have hit me is with the max roll of 8, because a max roll die always hits for the heroes. So that's okay. Then I roll my d6 and kill a warrior, and then the last warrior gets their chance to attack me, and they roll a d4, so they have a chance to hit. They rolled a 4, so you can see there, I float over that, and that's a 4. So that means I do take a damage, even though my might is 11. So I'm down to 7 health. Now remember, the game ends if I go down to 0 health or 0 time. So I got to keep an eye on those things. So I do my last attack, and rolling a d6, I'll definitely destroy that level 1 fighter. So I've successfully purged out those warriors there, and I would gain that d4 Dominion. So you can see here my Dominions are growing. I'm finding recruits in the dungeon, and I'm going to be using those against the epic party in the end, because that's a tough battle. Alright, and so I would keep on progressing through the dungeon. I'm not going to go through the whole game with you today. I just wanted to showcase to you, maybe we'll go through one more battle, use a diamond power. So beginning of my next turn, I would gain an ability point, so I'd be up to 3 ability points. So I could use 3 points to gain 3 time. So he has a way to really last longer than the troll or the eye roller. He has the demonic fire, which allows him to remove a creature from battle, or he could summon more Dominions, but I have enough Dominions now. So if I were to go here, for example, and go and fight these 4 rogues, we'll do this one last battle and then call it quits. So I gain 2 evade, so that will be here on my evasion die. Now you can see here I'm at my maximum, and it says as long as if you're at your maximum after gaining, upgrade your die. And I am at my maximum after gaining, so I turn my 8 into a d10. Now I still stay at an 8 stat, but the important part is to note that now I have a d10 to roll when I'm attacking with evasion, so it does give me a perk there. Alright, but now I've got to fight these 4 rogues. So what's it like to fight 4 rogues instead of 4 fighters? You're about to find out. So I place them into my combat zone, spread out the 4 cards, all level 1 rogues, because I'm just playing on the easiest mode possible. Now rogues have a special power. For each rogue in the party beyond the first, the heroes get to perform 1 evasion attack at the start of combat. So not only do I get the regular evasion attack, but I get 3 more evasions and attacks, because all of these guys really just bombarded me. They knew I was coming, and they're just all over this diamond. And then if they roll a 15 or higher on a successful evasion attack, they get to perform another evasion attack. So they've got a couple of bonuses there. So 4, 8, 12, 16, which means they get to roll a d20. And they get to do that 4 times. Sounds pretty dangerous, doesn't it? So still working on mechanics, but let's see what happens here. I have a evasion score of 8, so all they have to do on this d20 is beat 8. So they get 3 free evasion attacks. So the first one is a hit, so I lose a damage. So this is going to be painful. Second one is a 2, so that's a miss. Third one is a 10, so that's a hit. And then their regular attack is a 10, which is a hit. So there you go. Now, one of the mechanics I do have in the game is that instead of losing health, you can lose one of the stat that they're attacking. So I could have lost an evasion each time they hit me instead, but that permanently affects how easy it is for them to hit me, so that's why I chose not to do that yet. Okay, so they've had their 4 attacks. They didn't score higher than 15 on any time, otherwise they would have got a bonus attack. So if you think about that, they could have unlimited attacks if I keep with that mechanic, so I may have to put something in place to prevent that. But the luck of the dice usually wouldn't cause that to happen. Usually. We're playing with dice here, so I understand there are anomalies. So now as the diamond, I get to attack them. So I'm going to use my might, or I could go with magic again. Now, again, these stats aren't permanent either, but we'll take advantage of it and use my magic since they don't have any magic defense, so I automatically defeat one of the rogues on my attack. Now the rogues get to attack me for 8, 12, so they only get a d12 now, which means they can't possibly get this multiple attack thing. And they rolled a 1, so they missed me. So then I do my magic attack and kill one of them. And again, when you hit level 2 and level 3 characters, they always have a die for defense, so you're always going to have to roll. It's just these level 1 characters that have that 0 opportunity. So these guys now have a d8 to roll, so they roll their d8 and attack me. They scored a 4 against my 8 as a miss. I attack them, and then the last rogue gets a chance to attack, but he only gets a d4 now. So we roll that d4, got a 2 and miss. I attack with my magic and take him out. Alright. There you have it. I didn't even use my demon fire, but I could have used 2 of my ability points to take one of those out at the beginning of battle, and that would have given 1 less attack against me as well. So, Die in the Dungeon is progressing well, learning a lot about how to work with different mechanics, testing out some different possibilities, such as these Die minion tokens, and reducing stats versus health, and deciding how to progress through the dungeon. Again, I don't want to create the full print and play until I've gone through and play tested it with each character many times and decided what the best way is to build these dungeon tiles and kind of what some of these stats on these characters should be. Alright, if you have any feedback about how this combat played out or how the diamond looks or attacks, feel free to let me know. Always looking for your commentary, and appreciate you watching. Have a great day.